Good morning, well, good afternoon, good evening. Whenever this bad boy drops, we'll have it all covered.
Hopefully soon.
Monday, trifecta, y'all. Another week, and right now we are in the thick of it. We are into the final week of the regular season for football, and that means we already know who is going to the playoffs, and we also know who's going to the playoffs for the soccer and volleyball. We have a lot going on prep, and then the AMs are also in action. We're going to start on the football field. That's where we're going to start because last week was good. It was good enough because now we know who's going to the playoffs and which 4 teams are the top 4 in the MCC.
Yeah, last week we did kind of like, the way that the college football playoff kind of works, in that knowing that the top 4 are going to be in and then the 2 or 3 teams that were looming. Now we officially have the teams that are locked in the 4A and the 3A. And, it really just came down to Walla Walla, Pasco, and Hanford. Hanford really controlled their own destiny, so it was theirs to lose. All they had to do was go in, take care of their business, get a victory on Friday, which they did, and locked up that last 4A spot. So looking at the playoff picture right now, CHIAWANA, obviously the #1 seed in the 4A, 7-0 on the year in the MCC. They only had that 1 loss in the non-conference game up against Union. And then the Hanford Falcons locking in that #2 seed in the 4A, 4-3 in the MCC with a victory against Sunnyside in their non-conference matchup. And then Kennewick. They were my dark horse this season. They've had, a couple injuries, but the only loss to them for this season was against CHIAWANA, which I guess if you're going to have a loss, that's a good loss to have. They lock up the #1 seed going into the playoffs because even if they lose this week against Southridge and Kamaikan wins, they own the tiebreaker over the Braves due to a huge victory early on in the season. And then Kamaikan coming off a rough loss against CHIAWANA, 5-2 in the MCC and 6-2 overall.
And they get Hermiston this week at Lamson.
So
part of a doubleheader.
Yeah.
Part of a doubleheader. We haven't had one this year. We had 3 of those in the years past, and they're usually pretty fun. It's cool to see. It also puts that 8 o'clock game. There's a 5 and an 8. That 8 o'clock game starts usually around 8:30. So for us on Friday night, trying to run around to these games, it's good because a game starts later.
Yeah.
But it's bad because it's going to get over a little bit later on in the evening and probably right before we go on. So that's something to look forward to. The doubleheader at Lamson, buy 1 ticket, stay there, get 6 hours of football.
Really nothing better.
Nothing better. And then, so just talking about this playoff seeds, we'll go there. I almost started talking about the what we're going to have this week. But so CHIAWANA will now host because they're the top seed. They're going to host GSL's #2 4A seed. And I believe it's still up for grabs with this week. I do not know that for sure. I just see that Gonzaga Prep and Meade are both 3-1, and then Ferris is 2-1. So I don't want to. I'd have to dive in that a little bit more. But we do know CHIAWANA is going to host. Hanford is going to go on the road because that's what happens. And then for this 3A, that means Kennewick will host at home at Lamson, and Kamaikan will go on the road. And unfortunately, that means Kamaikan is going to match up with Mount Spokane, who in a lot of the rankings is all inside the top 10 in 3A. So is Kamaikan, though, so it could be a very good game. But if you wanted to stay away from a team, that's why that top seed was so important, is Kennewick is going to host Shadle Park. And last year, Shadle Park upset Mount Spokane the week before playoffs. So then Kennewick had to go up there and play Shadle or go play Mount Spokane, and they had a little bit of trouble that way.
I think for our teams, though, I think the 3A worked out perfectly for both teams. Not perfectly for Kamaikan because obviously you want to host a playoff game at Lamson Stadium. You don't really want to go on the road. But for Kamaikan, the good thing that they have is they have that beast of a running back, Tuna Alta here. And when you have an elite running back at the high school level and you go on the road in these windy and colder conditions, and you have a guy that you can just hand the ball off to, control time of possession, that puts them in a better position to be able to go on the road and win. Whereas Kennewick has a young quarterback, Elijah Tanner's under center, and he got a huge victory against Richland. With 1 minute, he went from the 25-yard line all the way down and marched the Lions to get a big victory over Richland on the road, which is big for him, a big confidence boost. But when you have a young quarterback who didn't take all the snaps in the season, having him be able to host a playoff game and somewhere where he's familiar with the home crowd cheering him on, that's going to favor Kennewick a lot more, as opposed to if the script was flipped and Kennewick had to go on the road and then Kamaikan was at home, that would have been, rougher for Kamaikan.
And Kamaikan last year, Coach Biglin did a great job in the playoffs. They had to beat Hermiston on the road week 9 last year. They did it. Then they had to go on the road week 10 in the first playoff week. They did that to get into the state bracket. So they are used to going on the road with this group, and Coach Bigland does a good job. And Coach Randy F. Holter is going to get his first home game for Kennewick. Yep. Also a good thing as a coach, your first season to get a first home game. That is, when you're bringing in a head coach, that's probably what the AD says. We want a home playoff game. And
also for Kennewick, just looking here at the stats, they have the number 2 defense in the MCC, second to only CHIAWANA, who's been dominant the whole entire year. So, you have Miles Mayofsky, who's a beast running back and has played extremely well, especially the last couple of weeks. So, again, kind of with Tuna, these two teams have elite running backs in the backfield that they can just hand the ball off to. They're also very good in screen games, so you can just get it out to them and make a couple plays. And then defensively, they're very elite as well. So, it's going to be interesting. And Hanford also, second best offense in the MCC. It'll be interesting to see if they can keep that up.
Hanford had G-Prep on the ropes last year. They were up 3 touchdowns in the fourth quarter and let that game get away from them. So if that matchup is the same matchup this year, it was on the road as well, that Brett J. and company are going to want to get after it. Yes, it was against G-Prep on the road, 28-24. They lost by 4. They had the lead in the fourth quarter, and it came tumbling down. So maybe they want that matchup again. Maybe they want a little redemption where they can go up there, and they want G-Prep, and they want to show that they can get a little redemption there and finish the job.
If I was a player, that's definitely what I want.
Yeah.
And if I'm a coach, that's definitely what I want as well, because obviously when you give up a 3-touchdown lead in the fourth quarter in the playoffs on the road, where you could have silenced that whole entire crowd, that whole entire community, and it kind of slips through your fingers. You want and you're urging to have that matchup again. I always think about the Golden State Warriors, your team, when they lost to the Cavaliers. What did they do? They went out and got Kevin Durant and made sure that the next season they weren't going to lose again. So if you're the Falcons, obviously you have a new quarterback as opposed to last year. So, Easton, he didn't give up that lead, so he can just go in and be like, we didn't give up that lead, but we're a new team, but however, we do want to redeem last year's team.
And there's guys on the team like Gabe Martinez who were on that team who will have that fire, who will remind the people. And I just want to give also another shout out to Brett J. He took over an 0-11 club 5 years ago. And now they have made the playoffs back-to-back years. He's totally turned that program around and made them a team that is going to be reckoned with year in and year out and battle for playoff position. So shout out to Brett J. and company. Then also the other 4A team we know is CHIAWANA.
Yep.
And they, Kamaikan and CHIAWANA, it was a good football game, a great football game. Wasn't super exciting as far as points scored or anything like that. It was a very good football team. Both defenses played very good. And one thing it just kind of dawned on me is that Coach Graff, I told this to you on Friday, he doesn't care how you win. It doesn't have to be pretty.
The best coaches usually don't.
No, it doesn't have to be pretty. You don't have to put 30 points on the board. As long as you win 10-9, 1 point better than that other team, that's all that matters to him. And they did a great job of running the clock, holding time of possession. In the third quarter, Kamaikan had 1 possession, and they just grinded it out.
Which is amazing because Gabe Schills hasn't played the last couple games, and he's been that elite tailback for them. Backup comes in, next man up mentality. Next player comes in, and he's able to duplicate literally almost the exact same thing that Gabe Schills does. And you also was telling me, because you were at the game, I was just able to see a couple of highlights. This defense is
Bridger Feldman.
Elite. I'm looking at the stats here. Defensively, they only allow 140 rush yards.
Total. That's not per game.
75 points. So, they allow about 3 average yards per play, 75 points. I don't know, my math isn't that great, so 8 games, 75. That's less than 10. Yeah. So, I mean, this, like
under
you said,
200 yards of offense a game.
The Hall of Fame head coach, Steve Graff.
He loves
He doesn't care. And, I look and watch teams like your 49ers and the Patriots. Both teams are undefeated. If you look at their games, they're not all that entertaining. The most entertaining games are like the Packers and the Chiefs because they have these crazy plays. But the teams that are undefeated and the teams that always do well, the Nick Sabans of the world, they just want to put more points on the board and make sure that you don't have as many points as you do at the end of the game.
Yeah, and they're going to get a home game, and so they'll get the second 4A seed. That is good for them. And that also means, if you're just looking at the schedule, if you're CHIAWANA, the last 3 regular season games were all at home. They know for sure Week 10 is going to be at home. That is a month of football that they do not have to travel, which is great for injury recovery.
It's great for us.
Great for us. And then also, if the seeding comes out, they won the MCC. They played Union very good. They have one loss on the year. They could still have a home game that first state. Now, this is getting ahead of ourselves. If they take care of business week 10, potentially that is 5 weeks at home. That is a long time to be at home, and you can use that to your advantage. Also, I do know Gabe Shills is going to give it a go this week and see how he feels. He had a doctor's appointment, and apparently he's going to get cleared to play. He's going to test out his injury. It's a foot injury, and he'll see if he can go. He wants to play because he's a senior. And one thing I think Gabe is a little bit better at, he's a bigger back, and I think picking up blitzers. And that's going to be big.
Which is huge because J.P. Zamora, although he did play last season as a freshman, is still a sophomore quarterback, still learning. And one thing that a lot of coaches like to do, especially at the high school level when it gets to playoffs time, the ball is cold, the field is cold, and the times at which quarterbacks have to make plays, defenses like to blitz and get a lot of pressure on the quarterback.
Yes. So that's our 4 teams kind of breaking down what they've done, what's to come. But now we have rivalry week.
Yep.
We have rivalry week in the MCC, some rivalry games. Hermiston-Kamiakin isn't, the rivalry you'd think, but Hermiston could have gone to the playoffs last year, and Kamiakin went on the beat them, so they're going to have a little bad blood. Wenatchee Walla Walla is non-conference, and it's not a rivalry game. It's just down at Borleski. That's how they're going to end the year. But CHIAWANA, Pasco, the Gravel Pit Bowl. Pasco is technically the home team, but as we know,
they share the stadium.
They share the same stadium, so it is the Gravel Pit Bowl 2019, and it's going to be fun to see because I think this is the most competitive Pasco football team that we've seen since the merger, or since the split, I should say. The split, not the merger. So that'll be interesting, and I know a few years ago, CHIAWANA put 84 on the board, so, but I don't think that'll happen because Leon Wright Jackson is also the coach for Pasco, and there's a lot of mutual respect there. But yeah, that game's going to be fun, I think.
Pasco Pride is literally the only 2 words that you need to know when it comes to this matchup because Pasco took the MCC by storm in the early parts of the season. We're starting to beat Richland. They were starting to beat all these teams, and you're like, this came out of nowhere. You didn't think that because you said in training camp that they were going to start shocking people, and I was, a little hesitant.
Yeah.
But then, they go through a little bit of a rough patch. They're not going to the playoffs now, but Pasco Pride is still alive, and they're going to want to take down the same city rivals. Looking at this matchup, I'm super excited to see Des Lacone go up against that CHIAWANA defense. The number 1 defense in the conference and the number 1 receiver in the MCC. He is the first receiver to break 1,000 yards. 53 receptions, 1,004 yards, 8 touchdowns, and he averages 19 yards per touch.
That's pretty good.
Which means they get the ball in his hand and they just say, hey, go make a play. So, obviously Des Lacone's going to be one of the main guys that they use on the offensive side of the football to try to get going. But like you said, anything can happen in NCC ball. It'll be interesting to see, like you said, if Gabe Shills is able to be what he was before the injury. And I don't anticipate him playing a lot.
No.
I just anticipate him going out there and seeing what he can do, and then coach being
maybe
okay,
if it's only 10 touches a game or something like that, where you manage him with the 10 touches, and at least you get a feel for what he can do, because in your playoff game, you'll know exactly what you have from him.
Yeah.
I'm excited too, and I know Graf coming from Pasco is going to he's not going to want Pasco to feel anything good, so it'll be an interesting game. I think maybe it'll be closer for couple quarters, but I do think CHIAWANA will outclass it, and they'll go undefeated in the MCC. But Pasco, their year was very good regardless of what happens. I just hope the stadium's packed.
Yeah.
Stadium should be packed. There's the 2 biggest high schools in the state. Get some people out there.
Yeah. And Edgar Brown is probably one of I think Lamson's bigger, but, when CHIAWANA has their band and Pasco has their band and those Riley just super loud student sections, this is going to be a fun game no matter what the outcome of the game is. For the community, this is going to be a fun game. It's Pasco Pride against Riverhawks, who are number 1 in the conference. So it's going to be a great matchup between the teams, but also just the community. It's going to be a lot of fun.
And then the other one, Atomic Bowl 2019, which is Hanford versus Richland. Hanford is the better team this year. On paper, on the standings,
Statistically,
like across the board.
but as you educated me a while ago,
But they have only beat the Bombers one time in their history.
wow.
One time in their history. So it is it's a rivalry
Do you
game.
think that affects coaching staffs? Real quick, just kind of sidebar. Do you think that affects coaching staffs and players going into a game, knowing that other teams, not you, other teams have not been able to beat the rival? Do you think that affects players going into a matchup?
I just think, like, there shouldn't be any pressure on Hanford this week because they're in the playoffs. You could realistically, like, rest some dudes if you wanted, if they're banged up. But they beat Richland just once, so the pressure, I think, is more on them than it is on Richland. Because you go out, you should win this game.
Yeah.
And if you lose again to Richland, yes, you're going to the playoffs, but I still think, Richland will always, those kids will be like, oh, well, we beat you still when you went to the playoffs. So I think there's more pressure on Hanford this game than there should be, because really they have nothing else to prove to anyone. They're a good football team. Their offense is dynamic. It's high scoring. Caleb Harvey, the Harvey brothers, and Dermis are great players. Yeah. And then you have Weishide there, but I feel like they still have a lot to prove in this game, maybe to themselves, like you're saying. Maybe it is to themselves, is that like, hey, we can beat them. It doesn't matter. So it'll be interesting. And on the other side of the ball, if you go 0-7 and the only team you're going to end up beating is your crosstown rival, that is a much better successful year than like going Richland's 2-5 right now. And if they lost to Hanford.
Yeah, as an Ohio State fan and a North Carolina fan, it just so happens that I'm a fan of, two of the best rivalries in college football and college basketball. And like you said, if North Carolina goes 2-30, but the 2 wins are against Duke, or if Ohio State goes 1-11, but the 1 win is against Michigan, successful season in my book, because you don't lose to your rival. And so as a kid, especially in high school, and you live close to these guys, you might like hang out with these guys, grow up with the pee-wee football and all that stuff.
Middle school.
Like, my only concern is that, like you said, Hanford has nothing to lose. Essentially, for all intensive purposes, could rest all of their guys and prepare for the playoffs. My concern is that they are too juiced up for this game and put too much into this just rivalry game where the playoffs are looming. And I understand, like, you want to beat your rivals and everything, but big picture, you have to think, if you want to win a state title, even if you lose to your rival, you can just take a selfie with your state title and then send it to them.
Yes. But so I'm looking forward to that. We know Fran Rich is going to be rocking. There's 2 student sections usually show up, usually out there. So that's going to be a really good atmosphere. Those are 2 really cool games.
Who's the home team for this year?
This year, Richland is the home team. So Richland will be on the side that has like the orange, reddish side, and then they'll be over there. But yeah, those rivalry game, I think they're going to be fun games. I think they're both going to be fun. Hopefully, we'll probably split them so that we both get to enjoy one of them, and we'll go out there on Friday. So yeah, it's week 10, it's week 9, and things are all things are decided. But it's good that there's still some stuff to look forward to, and we don't have just some games that are just games.
Yeah, for sure.
But Southridge and Kennewick will wrap up the evening. That's also a cross-city thing. We have seen bad blood when it's on the soccer pitch, wherever. There's some things that boil over, so maybe there too. But that's going to be the nightcap at 8 o'clock at Lamson. So we finished with a doubleheader. This is kind of an exciting week. Doubleheader, we got some rivalry games. I'm going to hype it up because you got to still enjoy it, right?
For sure, definitely.
Moving on, we know who won the EWAC. TCP's in second there, so we're going to touch. Columbia won that one. We touched on that a couple weeks ago. But Royal wrapped up the SCAC East yet again by just dismantling Riverview. I thought this game was going to be a little closer, at least early on in the game. I think Royal, you look at them on the field, and they go against the other 1A teams, and you're man, they're big.
Yeah.
They could roll with some 2A teams, with some 3A teams.
There's a couple teams in the MCC that I think they would give good matchups to.
Yes, and I've talked to a lot of coaches about this because I just am like, Royal's so good. And they're like, yeah, they would, against any team, if they didn't get injured, they'd be all right. I think. They said if they had to play one team like once and they were full strength, they'd be okay. It's just when you get into like depth-wise. Because as we've seen with like TCP, they have 18 players right now. Smaller schools, you don't have the numbers to kind of backfill. But anyways, they take down Riverview. Within 9 total plays, they are up 14-0. And then they go up 21-0. And the game was officially over. Caleb Christensen the quarterback didn't even play in the second half. So I imagine most of the starters didn't even play in the second half. Rest some guys, like you're saying, get right. But they are a whopping 61-1 over the last 5 years, including 4 state titles. That lone loss was in the state semifinals last year when they had 6 turnovers and still made it like a 3-point game or something.
Which, if you have 6 turnovers at any level of football, you have absolutely no right to be in a game. And the fact that they were just shows like this team, this program, very well coached and very well executing on.
And your favorite stat of the day?
Oh, the outscoring opponents.
Yes.
And that stat stands at 402 to 23.
Yes, they are.
That is absolutely wild because they have not allowed a touchdown. Their defense has not allowed a touchdown since week 1.
Yep.
Because the one touchdown that they did allow against, I don't remember who it is.
Here,
Are
I'll
you
tell
looking
you.
it up right
Yeah.
now? The one touchdown that they did let up was.
They had one against Okanagan too.
Okay, so I think the last time that they gave up a touchdown was.
Week 4.
Well, no, because that was the offense turned the ball over, so it was a defensive touchdown.
Defensive. Oh,
yeah,
okay,
defensive touchdown. So they have not allowed a touchdown since week 1.
Against Ellensburg, which is also a 2A team.
Yeah, which is absolutely insane that their defense is just that elite and that great. But then you're like, oh, like I can't just talk about their defense because their offense has put up 402 points.
And that's
that's all I have to say about that.
Yeah, and EWAC and Ellensburg is a good team in the EWAC. They're 4-0. They're the the CWAC, excuse me. They're the CWAC North champs. And Royal
beat them.
Granted it's the first week and you're ironing out some things, but they still won 21-16. So
And both teams trended in the right direction, so it's not like one team got lucky week 1 and then their season kind of was rocky. Both teams after that game went on to have good seasons. So
did Othello. They're 3-1 in the CWAC. They're 4-4 overall. Royal wraps up their regular season with the College Place Hawks, and then they'll get ready for the playoffs. The top 4 teams in the SCAC go to the playoffs or go to the SCAC tournament is really what it is. It's top 4 from the West and the East, so it's going to be Royal, Connell, Chi B, Riverview are your top 4 from the East. Royal will host, Connell will host, Chi B and Riverview will both go on the road. And that's going to be next week. So, and then the CWAC is already into playoffs because they have the most weird playoff schedule of all time. So what you're going to have to work out, and we're going to have to work out with our friends up in Yak City, is Ellensburg versus Prosser at Grandview High School on Saturday, and that is for the CWAC title.
yeah.
CWAC title. Okay, so moving across from football. Is that right? We're done with
We're
football?
done with football. Off to soccer.
Off to soccer.
Football.
Yes, we are on to football, from football to football, and we have MCC champs, CHIAWANA.
Another champ.
Another
championship for the Chiawana
CHIAWANA,
Riverhawks.
I'm going to go out on a limb and say CHIAWANA is going to have a pretty successful athletics year.
Yeah, looking at all the sports, even slow pitch softball, they're going to the state championship for the 2nd year in a row. Soccer, they finished the season 12-1. Only loss of the season was against Hanford, and it was really Hanford's game plan for that game, which really allowed them to get that upset because CHIAWANA's offense is very elite. Looking at the offensive side, Kylie Alvarez is like the queen of long shots. She's like the long shot queen because anytime that she gets an opportunity just to launch one from 20 to 30 yards, she always puts it on money and she always finds a way to put it in the net. Alia Koi is one of their forwards, and she has been tremendous.
Yep.
Really good goal scorer, really good assister. She always seems to, because when you look at forwards, they usually are the quickest on the field and they always really look to get, score a bunch of goals, but not Alia. She's very unselfish. She always tries to find her teammates and make sure that everybody has opportunities, and she really just makes the best plays. So looking at this team, they've been super impressive throughout the whole entire season. Again, only lost to Hanford. Their real competition to take the championship was Richland, and so they swept that season series and really locked up the championship. But, I think they're ranked number 2. It depends on the polls that you look at, but 4A state, they're ranked like either 2 or 3. So, looking at this team, they have a legitimate shot of winning a state championship this season. They'll be hosting playoff games, I'm assuming, because of the championship in the MCC.
On Wednesday or Thursday.
So great opportunity for this team to really go into the playoffs with a lot of momentum.
And you love goal differential, right? So since they've given up 2 goals against Hanford, that loss, they've given up 0.
Yep.
So in the last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 games, they have not allowed a goal. And if you don't allow a goal, just going to throw that out there. You're probably going to win a lot of those games.
Yeah, especially with
even
the
if you
offense.
just scored once.
Yeah, especially with the offense that is going to score a goal. I don't think they were. Do you have up all the games? Have they been shut out this season?
CHIAWANA?
Yeah.
No.
So, even if you just get 1 on the board,
They
the
only have 1
defense that
loss.
they have, and they scored in the game that they lost.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying, so their defense is very elite. It reminds me of Royal football. You talk about their offense, but you also have to talk about their defense. They're elite at both spots.
It'll be interesting to see how this all happens. I know once we get to the GSL crossover games, that's when we start seeing kind of better soccer as a whole. I know Richland and CHIAWANA were both good soccer teams, so it'll be good to see them kind of see how everything works. And that, again, starts Wednesday or Thursday, depending on the matchup. Like I know Walla Walla starts on Thursday. They go on the road against G Prep. But we have 3 games in the area on Halloween. CHIAWANA is your MCC champs. And then on the volleyball side of things, we know for sure Richland is at least half champs, co-champs. They are undefeated in conference. They have 1 game left, and that is against the Walla Walla Blue Devils, who are coming off a loss to CHIAWANA. That is on Wednesday night. It's a big game. It's the final regular season game for both teams. And if Walla Walla can rebound and get right, then they can upset Richland and get that co-champion.
Yeah, Richland's been dominant this whole entire season. I've been to like 3 or 4 games, and every game that I've gone to, they've been very elite. Especially the game against CHIAWANA, in which they went up 2-0 and then let them come back, tied things up at 2, and then were able to get it in the 5th game. I'm interested in hearing kind of your takeaway of seeing Walla Walla really for the first time be tested against CHIAWANA and the Riverhawks getting a sweep last week.
Yeah, I think CHIAWANA was really impressive to me. Both the Thorne sisters had really good games. Kylie and Brooke, they were both really good. I came away impressed with CHIAWANA as a whole, as a whole group, because I think they cemented to me that they were the 2nd best team in the MCC, and just the way that schedules worked out this year, they only played Walla Walla once. But I was also really impressed with the Blue Devils back line. I think they might have the best back line as far as scrappy, getting everything up, and that's what I was really impressed with, because even when CHIAWANA's front line was putting it down, a lot of the time it was getting dig, and there's nothing more tough for a hitter when you crush it. You're like, that's down, and then it's just pumped up. It's
demoralizing.
Demoralizing. That's what I was going with. There you go. But so I was really impressed with Walla Walla's back line. They need to get the ball to Hannah a lot more. Like that offense needs to be run through Hannah no matter what. And they just didn't get it. The sets were a little off. She was reaching, and she wasn't. If you're reaching, you're not going to be able to hit the ball. So they have a tune-up against Kamaikan, which it's a tune-up, but Kamaikan is also the top 3A team from the MCC. So it's not exactly.
no joke. Rankano's been very good this year.
It's not exactly like, I'm just going to go in there and we're going to win that game no matter what. But they have that game against Kamaikan tonight, and then they go take on Richland on Wednesday night, and that'll be for the outright MCC title or co-champions. And then they get started with their districts November 7th. November 4th and 7th next week.
So fall sports is officially, coming to its end, which is crazy because it feels like just yesterday we were
not sleeping.
Yeah, it's a good time.
I'll be working every Saturday from now until eternity, so it'll be great. Now moving on to what do we got next?
We got the AMS.
Americanos.
Big victory on Saturday, which is big because they had a rough week. 10-2. Was that Tuesday that they lost 10-2?
Yeah, that's just a forgettable game.
It's just like one of those that you just throw out. You don't even look at the tape.
But I did like that they said, they wanted to learn from it. A lot of teams are like, I just want to throw that game out. We're just going to pretend it didn't happen. But I think the good teams will look at it and use it as motivation, as fuel, as a teaching point, and not just say, let's just forget about a 10-2 thumping. Because there was a lot of things that went wrong in that game, and you have to at least look at it in the face, right?
Yeah, and which they did because they bounced back and they were going up against the defending champs on Friday and lost 3-2 in a shootout. So, you know, obviously they learned something because they were able to go up against the defending champs and really give them a fight on Friday at the Toyota Center. Unfortunately, came a little bit short in a 3-2 shutout. But then on yesterday, they officially turned the corner and shut things down. First on the board in the first period, and then a couple minutes later, they, you know, I think they played Prince George. Yeah, they played Prince George on Saturday.
They played both Princes this weekend.
Yeah,
Prince
so the
Albert
Cougars, you know, bounced back, tied things up at 1, and then we went to the second period, and they just put it on them. Sasha Mutala got a goal, and they really just started to get things together. 5-2 was the end of that game. Mutala has been very impressive to me this whole entire season. Looking at the first 12 games, he's got 7 goals, 8 assists, and 15 points. It's also the leadership that he's exuberated on the ice. Obviously, you know, Kyle Olsen's the captain, but when I look at it, it looks like there's co-captains out there. You look at both of these guys really communicating with the team and, you know, rallying. And, you know, Sasha was the first one after Prince George scored the goal and tied it up at 1, rallied the guys on the ice and said, you know, let's go out there and let's get them. And that's exactly what they did in that second period. And then just poured it on them in the third, and were able to get a big 5-2 victory.
Yeah, and they've always been a team that preaches group leadership, kind of like a group mentality. And so they've always had a good leadership core. It's not always just about the captain. Even going back a couple years, there was a time a couple years ago where they had like 7 alternate captains, and they just would rotate because there was just so many good leaders in that dressing room. So I think, yes, Kyle wears the C, but those other guys that have the letters on their jerseys, their sweaters, if they speak, people listen. And Sasha is definitely leading by example. He's got 15 points, like you said, in 12 games. That's over a point a game. And he should be. Like, you get drafted in the fourth round, you need to prove that and show it. And I think he would tell you the couple years prior to that, it was a little inconsistent. This year he's been super consistent week in, or not weekend, because that's football. Game in and game out. So,
and you also mentioned it, like, when he got drafted, the stress of performing to get drafted kind of was alleviated, and now he can kind of play loose, and it looks like he's playing loose. You can see it, you can feel it, that he doesn't have the weight of the world on his shoulders. He's just going out and, like you said, over a point a game to kick off the season. Yeah,
and he's been really good. I also want to give, you know, Connor Bouchard is also one of those guys.
He is probably one of my favorite players. Yeah. He's scrappy. He doesn't back down from anybody. He reminds me like a Jose Altuve, and that, like, people looking like, oh, like, he's too small, like he can't hang. But then you like are out on the ice with him, and you are humbled very quickly. Yeah, and he has points. He is producing on the stat sheet. I want to just shy away from that because he is. But the things that I think are even more important than the points that he puts up is the details that he plays with the hockey game, the energy, the spirit, and the leadership. And he was someone I focused on last week, and we have some sound if we want to roll it. But if not, we'll just keep going. But I remember, not this Saturday, I wasn't at the game, but 2 Saturdays ago, there was a penalty kill, and he's on his stomach. He misses it once or gets hit, and then the second time he gets it out. That's on a penalty kill. You got to sell out for your team. And then he comes back, he scores in that game. And then in the next game on Tuesday night, yes, they're getting killed. It's 4-1 at a point. He drops the gloves to kind of get everyone involved. He said he wanted to get the crowd back into it. He took one for the team, and then after, he looks at the bench and says, let's go. And yes, he says it's just pure emotion, but I think it's more than that. It's about him understanding the moment, understanding his role on the team, and if he can try and light a fire and get these guys going, he's going to do whatever it takes. And that's strictly leadership. And it's been cool to see him kind of grow from just a fan favorite who goes out there, who will hit anything, fight anything, to now a guy who he is a scrappy, like you're saying, scrappy player, but also will produce and also will show off all kinds of leadership. And I think he's really, really well respected in that dressing room. So big shout out to number 19, Boosh, and what he's been doing early on this year. But I will have to say, they've got to start getting a win streak going. Yeah. They got to start putting points together. And it's like one step forward, 2 steps back with them so far this year. They get a win, and then they lose a couple. They use 2 in a row.
Yeah, their last 5, they're 5-4-1. So they have points in 6 of the 10 games, which is really good, but you want to start getting like some consistency going. You want to win 2 or 3 in a row and then lose 1 or something like that. They did get a point against Prince Albert because they went into overtime and then they got 2. But overall, so they have 2 more on this homestand. This was a 6-game homestand that lasted almost a month. 1, 2.
They're 2-2 on the current 6-game
Yeah, there's
homestand.
current, and they need to go. They need to win the next 2. For this to be a successful homestand, you have to go 4-2 at home.
Yeah.
3-3, unacceptable. Almost unacceptable.
Yeah, you
at
never
home.
want to be 500 at home.
Yeah, you have to win these next 2, and so they play Seattle and Vancouver this week on Friday and Saturday, and you need to get those 2 games. I don't care how good you're playing. You got to get those 2 games. So you go 4-2 on the homestand, and then you have a 3-game winning streak when you go out on the road.
Yeah. What were some good things and some bad things that you saw on television?
Best
this
and
week?
worst of the weekend, which I am happily taking this from the Dan Patrick Show. So not that they're the only ones who do this, but my best and worst of the weekends. Best of the weekend.
I can take a guess as to what might be the worst.
Yeah, that's bad too. They're very bad. The Warriors are not good. After 2 games in this year, we are going to jump off the deep end. I text Mick and was like, go full tank mode, get the first overall pick.
Well, you also said that before the season even started. You're like, should they just go out and tank this season, go get a draft pick, and then when Clay comes
Because if they go
back,
get the first overall pick, let's just say they go full tank mode, get the first overall pick, and then you have Clay, Curry, and Dre in the first overall pick in the draft.
But do you think the first overall pick would be ready?
Who is it?
Right off the bat.
I don't know. You're
I
the
don't
one
know.
who knows it is.
It's got a couple guys, but none of them, they're all going to be 18, 19 years old, and I don't think, imagine an 18 or 19-year-old playing with Draymond.
Here's the thing. They're not doing that.
Yeah, they're not.
They're not going to do that because they can't convince Draymond, who was already PO'd.
Yeah.
He was real mad after the
he's not
game. But that's not even my worst. My worst was the Sharks losing to the worst team in the freaking NHL yesterday, 5-2. It wasn't even close. They got absolutely smoked. Oh,
You all right?
gosh. They're just so bad right now. I just don't understand how you lose to the worst team. Like, the Senators were turning the puck over all the time, and they couldn't score a dang goal. And then the one time the Senators go on a rush, it'd end up in the back of the net. Thanks, Aaron Dell, for nothing. Oh, that was my worst. So I could talk about that for a long time.
What was your best?
My best was Tiger Woods, y'all.
Oh, my gosh.
82 wins, tying Sam Snead for most all-time on the PGA Tour.
I can't tell on you without telling on myself, but I can tell the fans that we were hanging out and, just hanging out, having a good time, and then Tiger shows up on one of the big screens and you just run away.
Yeah.
I was just like, where'd Alan go? And he's just sitting there looking at the table. Tiger.
Well, it's a big win. It's a huge win. There are so many people in our industry across the world that when he was injured, everyone's saying washed.
That's all I heard. Was
Washed. He's never going to win again.
Yeah.
He should just retire. Can't play golf anymore. So, for him to come out and win 3 times in the last 13 months, which is a lot for a PGA Tour professional, it's pretty good. And for him to get it done yesterday was really cool. Yesterday was great. It was a sports equinox.
Yeah, there was NHL, MLB, NBA, and NFL all on the same day.
And then Tiger was going for his 82.
Yep.
You had some I saw some soccer stuff. I don't know. There's some soccer stuff going on
soccer
too.
just gets
But yeah,
thrown by the wayside.
everything was on TV. I was just posted up on my couch yesterday. So that was also another really cool best. You could flip through whatever. I watched a couple innings of the World Series because I will admit, once the Giants are not in the MLB playoffs, I don't really pay attention.
Same. Once the Astros beat the Yankees, I was just
That's just kind of, I like baseball. I like baseball a lot more when I have a rooting interest in it.
Yeah.
Because I can't sit through, it's a thinking man's game. Everyone will tell you that, and I just can't think that long.
Yep. That's why I quit.
I'm not smart enough. What are your best and worst of the weekend?
Best, actually, I'll start with bad first. Bad were the LA Clippers losing to the Phoenix Suns. Not that I'm a Clippers fan or anything, but I did look at this declaration that the Clippers were going to win the championships this year.
They should have gone 82-0 by what Mick was saying.
They lost to the Suns.
Was it back-to-backs?
No. They just lost to the Suns.
At home?
No, I was on the road.
that's
But they
good.
lost to the Suns. Do you know how bad Phoenix has been since the Steve Nash days?
Bad. Very bad.
So bad that you're like, oh, they're top 5 pick every single year. They draft dudes, I actually talked to, I didn't. My dad talked to an NBA scout, and then my dad told me what the scout said. That when they picked Dragan Bender, you've probably never heard of this guy because when they drafted him, the scout said he's 2 years away from being a year away.
So he's 3 years away.
Yeah. It's been 3 years, and he's not in the league anymore. That's what the Phoenix Suns do, and for the Clippers to lose to them was not great.
Hey, they're going to have those games. They're going to go probably 72-10.
But, yeah. Well,
tie the Warriors mark.
Well, the Bulls, because the Bulls went 72-10. Your boys went 73-9.
Oh, my bad.
Yeah, come on.
Oh, that's right.
Good was Ohio State whooped Wisconsin, 38-7. It was amazing. Woke up at 9 a.m. after a crazy Friday night football, but I was just like, got to watch this game. Whooped them. They look great. We got a bye week, and then we got Penn State and Michigan in a couple weeks, so we got to get ready for that. And also, the Colts won big yesterday. My boy Jacoby Brissett avoided a safety in the end zone. Von Miller was breathing down his throat, broke that tackle, find T.Y. Hilton, and then they were able to get into field goal range. And the greatest kicker of all time, Adam Vinatieri, iced it.
Yes.
And the Colts won.
And then
we are
everyone,
second. We are number 2 in the AFC, and nobody thought even
And everyone
myself.
forgot about the extra point miss because he made the kick.
Well, yeah. He missed a field goal to start the game, and also week 2, yeah, he was missing everything.
No, he missed a field goal in that game.
I know. He missed a field goal. You said extra point.
No, it was an extra point. It was after the second touchdown when they would have tied the game.
Oh, yeah.
But no one cares because he got ice in his veins and he goes out and wins it. Did you also see the Texans pull the fake field goal and their holder get absolutely lit up?
Yeah, I did see that.
That was also another
Did you
really
also
good.
see Deshaun Watson throw that touchdown pass blind?
Winking.
He went down and they're like, I think he got poked in the eye. No, the defender kicked him through his face.
Another best would be.
What's the over-under that Deshaun Watson wears a visor next week?
It's got to be at least, I don't know, 50%.
I would say that.
Yeah, he's got to. I mean, at least block it.
It's like that was his MJ moment of shooting a free throw with his eyes closed.
Yeah, but I feel like as an NBA player, and you'll know this as a basketball player, it's probably easier for you to shoot a free throw with your eyes closed because you have so much rhythm. Like, it's just so much like...
Especially a free throw. Like, any other shot, I don't think so. But, like, a free throw, you have your routine. Like, mine were 4 dribbles, a spin, and shoot. And so, yeah, that's, like... It's not, like, easy, but definitely easier than throwing a pass out of the pocket with a defensive end that's 300 pounds holding your legs
ankle.
and then throwing it into double coverage for a game-winning touchdown.
Yeah.
So,
Dude,
Deshaun
good.
Watson.
So, you know who else is really good? This guy named Nick Bosa. Going to be tormenting the Seahawks on November 11th. Mark it down because the Seahawks lost Jason Britt, which is actually a huge loss. He is out for the season with an ACL. And
your boys are good, dude. Your boys are good.
That offensive line is going to need to get shored up here in the next 2 weeks.
Well, it's not like the Seahawks are going to put any pressure on them because the
Yes,
Seahawks
they are,
defensive
dude.
line have not done much of anything. And they also allowed Matt Schwab, or whatever his name is, come back and almost beat him yesterday.
Charles Schwab?
Yeah, Schwab Tires.
No, it'll be good. November 11th. I'm looking forward to it. November 11th, December 29th. 2 huge games. NFC West will be decided on those 2 days. It'll be great. All right, that's going to do it for us. We got to get out of here. We had some fun. I got my Whitman Blues shirt on. They are practicing. The men and the women are already practicing. They're both going to be ranked inside the top 25, I believe, to start the preseason. And I've been hyping them up for Mick. So
Can't wait. Basketball season just around the corner.
heck yeah. All right, we'll see you later.